What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson, hosting today, joined by Ryan Wilson, host of the With the First Pick podcast. Just started their summer scouting school with quarterback previews. Can't wait to hear him thrash Drake May out of UNC. Which will not happen.
Who is, sorry to interrupt. Devin Leary left NC State to go to Kentucky. Who is the NC State quarterback?
Brennan Armstrong from Virginia.
UVA.
Yeah, he was actually ACC Player of the Year a few years back, threw for 4,000 yards.
Last year he struggled.
Yeah, but now we got his old offensive coordinator when he was really good. So anyway, this is not an NC State podcast. We're not about that.
I have one more thing. BMac, would you rather have Brennan Armstrong or Jordan Travis?
Oh, that's not even a question.
Not even close, dude. What the hell?
That's how you segue to BMac.
Also joining us, two-time Super Bowl champion, longtime Pick Six podcast friend of the pod.
Yes.
Good friend of ours, and host of All Things Covered, featuring Patrick Peterson, Steelers cornerback, his cuz, Bryant McFadden. Next two episodes featuring Dick LeBeau and Rod Woodson. Preview and react to Steelers matchups and news all season long. Today, we're going to continue our All 32 series, covering every single team in the NFL. What better way to do it than with BMac and Wilson? BMac, what's up, man?
What's happening, everybody? Let's go. Football is right around the corner.
I do want to get your very quick, and I realize that this is like one of my faults, but I need to know: are you worried Florida State's being too overhyped this year?
No, not at all.
Next question.
I think all the positive attention they're receiving is deserving. 10-win season a year ago. Clearly had Clemson. That was a back and forth affair. Kind of got down early in that ball game, but fought back. So what we're seeing from Florida State in regards to the national attention, I think is deserving. I mean, they got a lot of good players. Jordan Travis, as you guys mentioned, could be one of the top quarterbacks, clearly not just in the ACC but in the country as well. So I'm excited, and we're gonna really see what they have week one out the gate.
Indeed, we will.
Yeah.
Back. We've talked about this before, but I want to point out, I want Florida. I mean, I think the conference ACC is better when Florida State's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the double overtime 50-44 game
in
Tallahassee? Yes.
Unfortunately, that was my.
No, y'all won. Y'all won that one. You won that one.
That's the one. No. Yeah, we did the double overtime in Tallahassee.
Yeah, 2003. I was down there. That place, man. That place is loud when y'all are good. Anyway,
Phillip Rivers, Jericho Cotchery.
I forgot about Jericho. Also, former Steeler Jericho Cotchery.
Yep.
Actually, I need to see look at these game photos and see if we can.
And I heard this while Brinson looks this up, BMac. I don't know if you heard this back in the day, but I heard that Cower really liked Phillip Rivers coming out too. Like they wanted him over Big Ben.
Phillip Rivers was clearly one of the best quarterbacks I faced off. Well, I didn't play that game. I think I had a strained groin or something like that, so I wasn't.
Oh, the 2005
That's why we gave up so many points. Oh no, I'm talking about that
2003 game. Yeah, that's why you gave us so many points.
Because the 05 game out in San Diego, that's when Big Ben got hurt. I thought he was done. Remember that? He got his knee hyperextended.
That was my rookie year.
That was your rookie year.
Yeah. If Rivers, if the Steelers had picked high enough, Cower has sort of intimated that he liked all three guys. Cower went to NC State. So, I mean, like, obviously, intimately familiar. But, I mean, anyway, let's move on. Segue can be Bill Cower to the Steelers. And I want to get y'all's sort of gauge the room here, gauge your temperature check. So I did my quarterback tiers as I'm trying to find it in this freaking Google Chrome profiles, which I hate.
Yeah, I saw your tier list.
Yeah. So I put Kenny Pickett in tier 5. And
right, give that some context.
The name of the tier, and again, thank you. These tiers need context. Future potential can win with them guys. Mm-hmm. And the win with them guys above are Jared Goff, Dak Prescott, Geno, Kirk Cousins, Ryan Tannehill, Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm not saying that Kenny Pickett, that's his ceiling, but I think that he can, as early as this year, jump up a tier into tier 4 or even higher potentially, where you're saying this team can be a playoff team. This team can win the division, be a shock to win the division if Kenny Pickett takes a big second-year leap. Is that viable? And where are you guys as Steelers guys? Where are you at with Kenny Pickett?
Let me issue a quick disclaimer, BMac, and you can go first. But BMac is a lot like Rick Spielman, my co-host on With the First Pick, in that Rick works for Alabama, so he won't say anything bad about Nick Saban or anyone in that program, and their buddy Peterson gives him a hard time.
You say he works for Alabama? Does he work for Alabama?
Yeah. No, he goes down there and talks to the players, and he has a relationship with them in the fall, and Saban has him come down and talk about the journey of going through college football, getting to the draft, so on and so forth. BMac has a long history with Pittsburgh. His cousin is the starting cornerback for the Steelers. All Things Covered has been all up in the Steelers minicamp business, draft, schedule release. So you're not going to get a straight answer from BMac. So BMac,
yes, he's going to get a straight answer.
You're going to give a rose-colored version of it. So is Kenny Pickett capable of turning the corner?
Also, we should note as a throwback for the Pick Six podcast listeners, Kenny Pickett.
That's right. All right, what do you got, BMac?
Yeah, I think he's capable of turning the corner. And the reason why I feel that way, this is a unique, very, very informative graphic you guys see right there on your screen. You look at how he started the season compared to how he finished the season. That's why I'm very, very optimistic about Kenny Pickett, because his last 6 ball games, he was doing what he needed to do. And because of that, they won ball games. So he really showed growth throughout the year. And I'm okay with that, because as a rookie player, especially playing the quarterback position, I don't want to see you play your best football in the beginning and then you slow down and you play your worst football in the end, because now you're not really giving us a lot to look forward to the next season. Kenny Pickett did exactly what most rookie quarterbacks do: struggle early on, showcase a little bit of inconsistencies, but then he found his stride. So that's why I feel like, yes, I think he can turn the corner. Do I believe he's going to be a prolific passer, one of the top passers in the National Football League? No, I don't think they're going to put the football in his hands for him to have those opportunities. And that's not, you don't really want to do that, right? Especially in year 2. But I do believe we can see more of what we saw towards the latter part of 2020, 2022, starting off 2023, and just being able to sustain that level of production.
I agree with you. I was giving you a hard time, and my big issue isn't Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett wasn't my top quarterback coming out, but
I'll ask the question about the big issue next, unless you just want to go straight to it. I mean,
no, I was gonna follow up. I'm gonna ask that question. Right, I was gonna talk about Kenny and then get to the elephant in the room. See where BMac comes down on that. But location matters, right? The team you're playing for, and if he had gone to the Cardinals, for example, he'd probably be out of football by now. But he went to the Steelers, the team that built around him.
Josh Rosen 2.0, right?
Yeah, you don't have a chance. But, I mean, you talked about the way he finished. That Ravens game, that was some Big Ben level in-the-game stuff in terms of that. Najee Harris made that touchdown catch, and it was against the Ravens, which is even more important.
The road, by the way.
On the road. Here's my issue. I have 0 issues with the personnel on either side of the ball. Here's my issue, BMac.
I think I know where you're going.
Blame Canada. Blame Canada.
Should there be another guy calling plays for Kenny Pickett to get the most out of Kenny Pickett in year 2?
You know what? I in regards to the concerns,
this is a real litmus test. This is a litmus test of these.
I think those are all valid. I really thought they were going to go a different direction this year offensively. Now, maybe Mike Tomlin, he's very, very loyal to his staff. That's one thing we know about Mike Tomlin. And maybe he didn't want to kind of change up the dynamics early on with his young quarterback. Right. But I'll say this. Every week, I feel like Matt Canada will be coaching for his job in Pittsburgh. So
you think there could be a situation like week 7, if things are going sideways?
Oh, no question.
No
question. Because the reason why I feel that way, guys, is because this roster is much improved from a year ago. I'm not saying that they expect instantly to compete for a Super Bowl. We know that's always the standard. But in regards to competing in the division, being a playoff caliber team for sure, that roster on paper is good enough to do so, especially on the offensive end. So if they're not putting points on the scoreboard, if they're consistently relying on their defense, TJ Watt, to bail them out week in and week out, they're not going to stand for that. So
we agree.
If they're scoring points and winning ball games, he's there. If we don't see growth from Kenny Pickett, because we saw in the graphic, the last 6 ball games, they were the last 5
they won their last 4. They won 4 in a row.
Yeah. If we don't see closer to what Kenny did towards the end of the season, and we see more of what he did in the beginning of last year surfacing this year, now you can't. You got to get a guy in there that can help your young quarterback grow.
Are you guys aware that the Steelers offensive coaching staff with Matt Canada, Eddie Faulkner, and Frisman Jackson And I know this is not an indictment of any of them individually. I'm just pointing out a fact.
Yep.
We're all on the 2013 NC State coaching staff.
How about that? I did not know
that. 2013 NC State coaching staff went 3-9 and 0-8 in the ACC.
I wouldn't call that a fun fact either.
Wow.
Yeah.
Only Will be able to give us that type of.
I know, right?
Now, they were also on the 2014 NC State coaching staff. I think they were all there. Canada left after 2015. So, like, they were, all three of those guys were there together for 3 years. And so I don't know how they all ended up together on the Steelers. That's a little weird.
Yeah.
Let me ask both of you a question, and then you can ask the next question, Brinson, but just related to what we just talked about here. So, BMac and Brinson, two-part question. Who has the best year in year 2 among the quarterbacks? Kenny Pickett, Des Ridder, who has all sorts of weapons. He's out of excuses, and he's just getting his chance, or Sam Howell? And the second part of the question is, just in related to Kenny Pickett, since we're talking Steelers, what will his season most resemble in terms of productivity, in terms of young quarterbacks taking the leap, quote unquote? Jalen Hurts, that's a big ask. Tua when he's healthy, or Daniel Jones last year?
I think Daniel Jones probably.
Daniel Jones, yeah.
Where it's realistic. Take care of the football.
Yep.
Daniel Jones, I mean, somebody was like yelling at me about having Dak Prescott below Daniel Jones in the tiers, and I was like, look, it's Daniel.
I'm all right with that.
Well, it's like Daniel Jones is in the intriguing but has question marks tier, and Dak is has probably hit a ceiling tier.
And here's the thing: if you trade those two players and leave the coaching staffs in place, your tier might switch. I would imagine
Dak would be, exactly. Coaching. But to your point, coaching matters. So I think if I were betting on one of those 3 second-year quarterbacks, I'm really high on all 3 of them relative to sort of expectations. I'm probably taking Kenny Pickett because as much as that the NC State thing is really weird. The fact they have 3 of those guys from the same college coaching staff. You should ask somebody in the Steelers about that, BMac, and get me. I was curious, like, how they all ended up getting there. Is it just referrals from Matt Canada?
I don't know if I want to ask anybody because they were bad in NC State.
Right.
No, they were good. They won 8 games the next year. Anyway, don't break it down. Yeah, don't. So about the 0-8 season, I think I trust Kenny Pickett. I trust Mike Tomlin. That's who I trust. I trust Mike Tomlin to find a way, even with Matt Canada there. He just wins a lot of games. He is, at this point, underrated relative to his standing amongst all NFL coaches because Big Ben has moved on. They changed GMs. It's like a new, when the Steelers moved from your Steelers, BMac, to what they became, where they were like leaning on Big Ben in the offense with Brown and Le'Veon and all those guys. Like, this is a new Steelers thing, and he's ushering in the change without ever really rebooting or without ever having to like reload. He's reloading, right? He's not having to rebuild. And I think that really matters in terms of your legacy as a head coach.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think in regards to the 3 quarterbacks in this question, Kenny Pickett, Sam Howell, and Desmond Ridder, I side with Kenny Pickett as well because he should be a lot ahead of all the guys because he played more. We only saw 4 games for Desmond Ridder. We only saw Sam Howell play in 1 game, and both guys didn't really do a lot. We just talked about the growth that Kenny Pickett displayed towards the latter part of the season. So, I mean, he has more experience than the other 2 quarterbacks, and not to mention his offensive teammates that's a pretty good offense they have surrounding the young Kenny Pickett. And the same can be said for Washington. I love their offense as well. They have some talent as well, and the same can be said for Atlanta. But just from the experience factor alone that Kenny gained last year, I take Kenny.
Wilson, Kenny Pickett had 2 games last year with 6 sacks, back to back. Actually, not great. The offensive lines. I'm not suggesting it's a huge problem. I'm just curious. You look at the depth chart at wide receiver. Actually, I'll tell you what. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, I'll ask you about the offensive line next. So you look at the wide receivers, and all of a sudden you have, Allen Robinson's your 3. Pat Freiermuth looks like a legit number 1 tight end. Good, a good second round pick. And then Najee Harris is there as your, former first round pick. You expect a lot out of him, especially if he's healthy. What do we think about this offensive line? Like, where do we stand on the offensive line? Because I think it's sort of it's not the, you've seen great Steelers teams in the past that had big name offensive linemen, and this doesn't really have that, although it might still be good, right?
Well, here's the thing. Tell me what you think about this, BMac. Number 1, they traded up to get Broderick Jones, so clearly that was a concern. Number 2, And you know this better than I do. Tomlin talks about this all the time. The standard is the standard. And I think Dan Moore showed up at minicamp in shape, and he took it as a challenge, and he's gotten better. But he's a 4th-round pick, so there's a reason you draft depth there. They got Isaac Seumalo. He's a mauler.
Big
inside.
Pickup. Yeah,
huge.
I love that pickup. Yeah.
James Daniels coming off a strong season, so I think the offensive line is going to be a lot better. And I think they played every snap together that the starters did last year. And the one thing I'll mention, BMac, in 2008 when you guys won the Super Bowl, that offensive line, no offense to your teammates, statistically they were not very good. Big Ben took a beating. And Tomlin even said, listen, at the time, I remember this. He said, there are 2 ways you can win offensively: with playmakers, and the quarterback gets the ball to your playmakers, or you can have offensive linemen block everything up. We're going to have to go with the playmakers because the offensive line isn't where it needs to be. And so you can win that way. It's not preferable in terms of keeping your quarterback healthy, but I think this offensive line is going to be much better than the 08 offensive line. And they'll give Kenny Pickett a chance to have some success.
I think this offensive line unit will be much better than what we saw last year. Personally.
If this is a middle of the road or top half of the league offensive line, this offense could cook if Kenny Pickett takes even a half a step forward.
Yeah, and that's why people are excited about the Pittsburgh Steelers. And let's keep it real. Even though they have really improved dramatically on both sides of the football, no one is really talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers because of some of the other teams in the division. And if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, you're okay with that. You're okay with that. Because one thing I know about Pittsburgh, regardless of what they have on their roster, they compete within a division. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, with a rookie quarterback, they split every team in the division last year.
Well, let me ask you about a couple of odds here then related to the Steelers and the division. Their over under is 9.
The win total?
That's higher. I would go over 2. That's higher than I expected. Their over under for wins in the division is 2.5, but the over is -170, so it's really more like 3.
Yeah, to BMac's point, they beat Mitch Trubisky in week 1, beat the Bengals where Joe Burrow threw 4 interceptions. TJ Watt.
Well, it wasn't really Trubisky. That was a defense. TJ Watt beat the Cincinnati Bengals in that defense.
Before he got hurt. That's right. And then let's see. They beat the Ravens. We talked about that. And, of course, they beat the Browns in the last game of the season. So they did. You're right, BMac. They split.
They actually could have swept Baltimore. Also, the first loss was a close loss. And the thing about this is they took care of business against one of the more explosive offenses in the National Football League in week 1 with Cincinnati. TJ Watt went out that ball game, and clearly the wheels fell off a little bit. If TJ Watt was healthy throughout the entire year, oh my goodness. And that's why, I mean, health is very, very important for the Steelers, because you just go back and watch week 1 of a year ago and see Joe Burrow has to be the most hated player in the National Football League for Joe Burrow, TJ Watt. He has to hate him the most out of any other player in the National Football League. I don't know if that's a valid thing, but I want to ask Joe Burrow, like, who do you hate the most? I believe he would say 9.
Well, you talked to TJ about the little scuffle they got in. Was that week 1 too?
What is it with the Watt brothers?
No, that was a few years ago.
The Watt brothers torment Bengals quarterbacks. What's up with that?
Yeah.
JJ, remember JJ had a pick 6 of Andy Dalton in the Rose Bowl, and then he did it again in the pros.
Man, that's a cool graphic, man. Just how important TJ Watt is to the entire team, not just to the defense alone.
For those listening to the podcast, with TJ Watt, 8-2 last year, 1-6 without him, gave up less than 17 points per game with TJ Watt on the field, and over 25 points per game, down from 3.2 sacks down to 1.1. Turns out the defensive player of the year and one of the best defensive players, or the reigning defensive player of the year at the time, and one of the best defensive players in football matters a lot. The odds for the division are really interesting to me too, because they've shifted a ton. The Bengals now are plus 125. A little surprising they're plus money. Not surprised they're the favorites. The Ravens have gotten down to plus 275 with Lamar in there, a sense of optimism about Todd Monken. The Browns are sort of hanging around at plus 380, and the Steelers have dipped down, I think dipped down to 5-1, which is still a pretty good number for a team, for what we think, for a team with over under of 9 wins, which indicates you'll be competitive to win a division that looks like it's going to be just a murderer's row here.
BMac, let me ask you a question.
Go ahead, Ryan.
I just want to ask you, are you surprised that the Steelers have the longest odds?
In regards to the division?
Yeah, because I feel like Cleveland has a ton of questions.
Cleveland's roster is pretty good.
I'm not surprised, and I think the odd makers are really expecting Deshaun Watson to look like Deshaun Watson from Houston. That's
what they say. Hope is not a plan. But go ahead.
I think people are probably more interested in betting on Cleveland too than betting on Pittsburgh in this spot because of Watson versus
No, I get that. Yeah.
I mean, you guys I'm optimistic about Kenny Pickett, but I think generally the public is like, Kenny Pickett's not going to win this division, but it could easily happen if the defense.
Yeah. That's what people are saying because of the quarterback star power within the division.
Right.
I mean, the top two guys with Lamar and Joe is like, oh, that's already difficult. And then you factor in the experience that Deshaun Watson has, and we don't expect to see the below average play from Deshaun Watson. I mean, if that happens, Cleveland, they're going to burn down the stadium. But we feel like with a full year, he should be much better.
I want to touch on the defense too really quickly. Joey Porter Jr. and Keanu Benton added as second-round picks to the secondary and the defensive line, respectively. I mean, Pat P comes over. We going to get Minnesota Pat P or end of Arizona Pat P?
I tell you what, if you want to find out, you listen to All Things Covered because Pat P was fired up talking about not only the PFF rankings where he was, what was he, 31st?
Yeah, he was 31st.
Ranked out of cornerback.
Ranked cornerback, not defensive back.
Not defensive cornerback.
Prisco was on here and said that Pat P asked him, he's like, what the hell, Pete? When he wasn't ranked in the top 100 last year, he's like, I mean, dude. And then he ranked him this year. He's like, look, fair.
Pat seemed like he was pretty excited to be BMac about getting a chance to play a little man, which he wasn't given an opportunity to do under Ed Donato.
Yeah, and moving around also. They've been moving around a lot throughout their minicamp and OTA practices. He's excited about that. Just the connection with Micah Fitzpatrick. I mean, those two guys have a lot in common. Going back to their college days and, of course, seeing what they've been able to do throughout their professional career. So, yeah, Pat P's fired up. He was already fired up by the disrespect because he said PFF, number one, he does not like PFF and how they go about grading guys. But he said he finished last year top 10, I think number 6 or something like that in PFF cornerback rankings. And how is he 31st now with no game has been played? So, yeah, he's motivated. And anytime he puts his pads on, man, he's trying to go out and dominate. And he's trying to go, at the end of the day, he's trying to get that championship.
Let me ask you.
He finished, he was 6th overall last year, according to the rankings. And then they're he's the 31st best.
Yeah. Pat was like top 4 or 5 in all major categories for cornerbacks, interceptions, PBUs, man rating in coverage, zone rating and in coverage and everything.
Let me ask you, Pat P his whole life. When Pat P gets fired up about something and sets his mind to something, so what should Steelers fans expect, I guess is what I'm asking from Pat.
Oh, a guy who's going to deliver. Because he told Pete Prisco last year when Pete didn't have him on his list, he said, I bet you have me on next year. Pete was like, well, show me.
He's scared.
He's like, okay, I'm going to show you. It's no different than when Pat played against Minnesota this past year. And, of course, not Minnesota, Arizona. Yeah, and they were just basically saying Pat was washed up and he had nothing left in the tank. And go look at that game. I mean, Pat he's not a big
Did he have one where he had an interception and he had 5 guys around him? He was still trying to run around because he was trying to pick 6 it or something like that?
Oh, man, he was trying to rub it into the Cardinals a little bit. And then he had another one on Robbie. He tried to catch with one hand to showboat it. And he dropped that one, and he talked about that on the podcast. So,
that's right.
Steelers fans, you're getting a guy who's still motivated, and he loves the disrespect because that gives him an added chip on his shoulder.
Talk to me about these 2 rookies, Wilson. Because, I mean, with Larry Ojobi, who Charlotte guy, love him, big body. Cameron Hayward, obviously, who's matured his way into, I think, probably being, I don't know if he's first ballot, but he's going to get in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
he's going in all. Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying, you look at that class, and there's a couple guys between him and Cameron Jordan, 2 Camerons who really had just incredibly flourishing, lengthy careers when they looked like they were just going to be really good players. TJ Watt, of course, and then a secondary. I mean, I don't know. I mean, this defense. I'm intrigued.
This defense was good last year is the thing. Now, look, they lost Cam Sutton, and that's a huge loss. But, again, we just talked about Pat P. That's not a bad trade. And BMac, I think you would agree with this. Losing Javon Hargrave to the Eagles a few years ago, that was a huge loss in the middle of that defense because that's why he got paid, number one. And that's why he just got paid again to go to San Francisco because he is twitched up. He is a problem in the middle of the defense. And I think Keanu Benton is not that athletic, but he's good and he's getting better. And that pick makes a ton of sense to me. I didn't love him as high as the Steelers took him, but that's just one man's opinion. So I think he has a chance to have a lot of success. And it's hard not to have success when you have those physical tools. You did what you did with Wisconsin. You're playing next to Cam Hayward, who's going to be a mentor to you in much the same way that Pat's been a mentor to Joey Porter, and he's talked about that on the podcast. And let me ask you about another rookie, 2 rookies. Nick Herbig, I absolutely love. I don't know how he did at minicamp, but he was an edge rusher at Wisconsin. He'll probably move inside because he's a little smaller. His brother, they signed to play offensive line, which is sort of interesting. Steelers love signing siblings, but I think he has a chance to contribute in this post-Devin Bush world. It didn't work out. And then Corey Trice, who I loved watching last year. I saw him live when Purdue played Syracuse, and he is tall. He ran a lot better than I thought. I don't know if Pat got a sense for what he's done in shorts and T-shirts, but I think he has a chance to start out on special teams and find his way on the field too.
They have 2 avatars at the cornerback position in Corey Trice and Joey Porter Jr. Long. I mean, long guys that are extremely athletic and very, very rangy. And when they find their niche in this defense, the future will be extremely bright for the Pittsburgh Steelers at the cornerback position with those 2 avatars. One guy that I'm excited to see is Alex Highsmith, because he had a career year last year without TJ. I think he had 14 and a half sacks. You add TJ into the mix healthy, you know, everything is going to slide to TJ's direction line-wise. That's going to give Alex one-on-one opportunities. And a year ago, he showed that he can win those opportunities. And don't forget about Marcus Golden as a situational pass rusher as well. And Pat P said he came in, man, when he finally got comfortable, man, he was really showing a burst, and he can be another terror in regards to putting pressure on opposing quarterbacks. So, I mean, if you look at the defenses in the AFC North, right, based on returning players and additions, and based on all 4 defenses being healthy, I think Pittsburgh is number 1.
Oh, you think so? Ooh, boy.
Yeah.
That's like the Bengals aren't messing around.
The issue for Cincy, for me, Trey Hendrickson is their guy, but outside of that, they don't have that consistent guy who can put pressure on quarterbacks.
Sam Hubbard's still there, isn't he?
Sam Hubbard is there, but I just named 3 guys that can go get it for Pittsburgh. They got 3 legit guys, 2 for sure. Marcus Golden is a guy who has experience, and he's showcased that he can do it. But I don't know if there's another top 2, maybe you go to Cleveland with Myles Garrett, and they just got Za'Darius, right?
Yes, they did trade for Za'Darius, yep.
Yeah, they added Za'Darius, but I mean, and then when you factor in the secondary play, along with I do believe Pittsburgh is going to make a move at the inside linebacker position as well.
Oh, you think so?
It's all said and done. Yeah, I think so.
Because they got
I think the con man. I think Omar is going to make a move. The con man, as I call him.
How are we? What's the vibe on? And I'm obviously without Katie Mox here to rein me in. I'm running this podcast. That's the longest one yet. Of these all 32s, but. I feel like Omar Khan's done a really good job so far as GM, like the sort of a seamless transition, very reminiscent, not surprising, of Ozzie Newsome, Eric DeCosta, and sort of what they did in Baltimore, right?
Yeah. I think, and Ryan, I would love to hear your answer on this. I think Omar has done a real good job in his first full off season as the GM for the Steelers.
No, absolutely. And, we talked about this. Kevin Colbert was a football guy, and Omar is a numbers guy who's been in that organization so long. He knows how things run. And BMac, you could speak this better than I could, but I would imagine knows who to lean on. I'm sure he and Tomlin, we saw them, they were together. They were joined at the hip at the pro days, sharing those conversations, because you sort of have to. It's sort of a group decision. And sometimes you see, especially when you get that high up in an organization, there's a struggle for power, and you don't get that sense in Pittsburgh. Everyone stays. No, people don't get fired every 2 weeks, and there's stability, and the ownership is great. And I think it starts there. BMac, let me ask you. By the
way, that may be part of why Matt Canada still has his job, is a Mike Tomlin going with sort of the company policy of let's not rush things when it comes to very important hires and fires.
BMac, let me ask you this, and you may not want to answer this. You can just say move on. Would you rather have James Harrison and Lamar Woodley, or TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith?
In their prime?
Yeah, you can take the best of the best.
You mean both in their prime? I got that's not.
You can say that's a stupid question.
No, Woodley in their prime?
Yeah, we'll say 08. Take a minute.
Yeah, man, them boys was.
Watt's probably the best guy out of the whole group.
Yes.
But Woodley Harrison combined better than Highsmith.
Watt would be the best guy
You just said
well, hold on. A prime James Harrison, though. If Watt is the best guy, James Harrison is right there.
No, that's right. They're 1-2, 1-1A even.
Yeah.
But you just said Alex Highsmith had 14.5 sacks last year.
Yeah, but what Woodley
with no
was
help.
doing, we just, and also too, we saw that 1 year. So we need to, can we see something similar to that?
Right. I'll tell you what, if you put a non-former football player on the field and said, do you want to get hit by TJ Watt or James Harrison? 10 out of 10 are picking TJ Watt because TJ Watt's easing up as before he hits you. James Harrison's speeding up. All right, we'll get out of here on this.
We were putting people to sleep, man, and James Harris put people to sleep. They probably still sleep.
Remember that Colt McCoy hit that basically changed the concussion rules?
Massaquoi went to sleep because of James Harrison. Josh Cribbs went to sleep. That's all in the same game.
They tried.
He got fined $75,000 if I'm not mistaken.
I think the game Antonio Brown kicked the punter too. No, that was later.
That was later. This was Colts maybe rookie year.
Yeah, he was young
in Pittsburgh. We had the throwbacks on. James Harrison got fined.
It was a Thursday night game.
No, it was a 1 o'clock game.
Was it?
Yeah. He put somebody to sleep Thursday night too.
Yeah,
that was Cole. That was Cole. Cole was lifeless on the field. Everybody's like, "Oh my god."
Yeah. Okay, so the game I'm talking about, Josh Cribbs and Mohamed Massaquoi, they went to sleep that game.
Yeah, the same game. Yeah, and he got fined. That was when the NFL was really. Anyway, we're getting way off track. I'm getting in trouble here. But here's what I'm gonna throw at you guys. At Caesars right now, you can bet on best regular season record. And I'm going to throw out that I like the Pittsburgh Steelers at 40-1 to have the best regular season record in the NFL.
In the NFL?
Oh,
40-1.
That's tough.
That's
you got to have some guts to take that bet, to make that bet in the NFL.
I thought you were going to say the AFC North.
Yes,
40-1.
I don't want to put nothing on that one.
No.
Okay. All right. Now all of a sudden you get a little money involved in the
entire NFL. You got to factor in Andy Reid, who all they do is win at least 13 games every year.
The Chiefs are under 4-1 to have the best record. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
You'd have to win. You have to win 13 or 14 games.
For our bettors out there, if you guys were paying attention to the spreads and the lines, they had Pittsburgh some months ago win total at 8.5.
That's what I'm saying, dude. It said 9 win total, but they can't win 13.
And now it's at 9, right?
Yeah.
But think about getting it. A few months ago at 8.5, all you got to do is win 9 wins. All Mike Tomlin does is finish above 500 every year.
Yep.
That was a given.
That'll do it for the Pittsburgh Steelers, all 32 podcasts, the longest one in the series.
Guaranteed.
So we're talking about the Steelers. We can't shortchange.
Right. Well, also, we hadn't chatted with you guys in a while. It's good to catch up.
Yeah.
Subscribe. So you listen to this podcast, you like football, you like CBS Sports, the podcast family. You got 2 members of it that you just heard talk. With the first pick, subscribe. Their summer series on quarterbacks coming up, Ryan Wilson and Rick Spielman. And then all things covered with Patrick Peterson and Bryant McFadden. Got the all the Steelers. If you're a Steelers fan and you're not subscribed to that podcast, you're an idiot.
What are you doing?
Oh my goodness. What are you doing?
Because it is peak Steelers season on all things covered. Fellas, thanks as always. Talk to you soon.
Yes, sir.